So let's just dive right into the Watchmen. So you guys, the band was formed in 1988. You said you knew two of the other members since you were 13 years old.
Younger. I mean, Danny and I are first cousins. Our moms are sisters, singer. Joey and I, grade school, grade one, kindergarten. I mean, we have inside jokes that are a mile long, that we still laugh about here and there. But I've known those guys forever, and that's not lost in me how lucky we are. I mean, look, this band has come with many, many challenges, and every band has its wrinkles, which we can cover if you like. But you cannot buy that kind of history. I see from time to time, I'll get ads or postings, drummer wanted for this kind of band or whatever, or we're forming a band, we're in our mid 30s, we're mature musicians, we're doing this, we're doing that. We have this incredibly organic history together. Um, and that is, I think, the best bands, most of the most well-known and successful bands, a lot of them have that same type of history. And I can rattle off a bunch of them right now, but I don't need to. It's an incredible thing that we have that. It's kind of it's a strength, but it's also a weakness because we can make each other crazy, and we know how to get it under each other's our individual skin, so to speak. So, but it's a nice thing when things are going well for us, for sure.
And when the band was first forming, who would you say were the band's biggest musical influences? So maybe you had a few favorite bands, but then when there's other members, it's kind of takes from everybody to make a sound of a new band.
Yeah, we often went through a lot of the same uh, records and had the same taste. We would be often listen to certain bands in our van driving around. We spent hours and hours and more hours in this van traveling around the country. A few that come to mind. I mean, REM, I think, is probably at the top of that as far as their whole aesthetic. Four members. They had that sort of contemplative, introspective sound with lyrics that meant something. We came along at a time when there was a very crowded pool of Canadian bands in the 90s that I think a lot of them were trying to sort of sound like, I hate to say it, sort of grunge bands. And that was sort of rampant at the time. And we were in those waters. But underneath that sort of rock sound, we had, like I said, quite an introspective, contemplative sound. Sort of there was a folk element to that as far as how we uh, like to write songs, and that was in a lot of what we listened to as well. But yeah, REM. God, we love the Jayhawks. I remember. I mean, so many. I can't even begin, Joel. We would often, something I will say that was interesting was when we were 18, 19 years old, before we had a record deal, um, we knew that the industry of music was in Toronto. And being a band from Winnipeg, we knew we had to be here a lot, and we would come here for months at a time and work. And we had an agent at the time, who's still our agent, who would book us to open up for anybody and everybody. And this was at a time when we were uh, only sort of getting started as a band, learning our craft, learning how to be in a band, learning how to travel together, learning about how we should be developing our own sound. But we were like very impressionable sponges at the time. So it's a remarkable catalog of every band. Tragically Hip, Pursuit of Happiness, 5440, Doug and the Slugs, Kim Mitchell, Barney Bentall, um, pardon me, Northern Pikes, Skydiggers. I mean, I can go on. Razorbacks, these 90s bands, we'd come here, and a lot of them had record deals in 1990, and we did not have a record deal yet. And it felt like a big deal that we were opening up for these bands that were putting a lot of people in these rooms. And I feel like at the time, it was natural for us to kind of take a little bit from all these bands. We would learn a lot. We would steal this. We would maybe, um, you know, uh, incorporate a little bit of that, and that was all sort of building as far as the Watchmen were concerned, just prior to McLaren Furnace Room coming out. And then at that point, we had a producer, which was very important to kind of align a lot of those influences. Because I think we were prior to that album, we had good songs, but sound wise, I think we're a little bit. I hate to say it, a little lost. I listened to some of those demos, and they're not great stylistically, but yeah, it was a very, very exciting time, and we knew that it was something we wanted to do. And it was at that point, and I'll circle back to what you said earlier. It was at that point when we knew that the music of Canada was very Toronto centric, and that came with its disadvantages. And I'm happy to talk about that. But it was a bit of an uphill battle at that time, being from Winnipeg. But we physically made the trip into the city a lot. Played all over Queen Street. The first time we played at Lee's Palace, we made $6. I remember that because I have a picture of three $2 bills, and it shows you how old I am. It's $2 bills, and beside the picture was a note from the doorman or something, or maybe the promoter saying it's $6. We had to pay the guy to take tickets at the door. Like so $50 from what we earned went to the guy at the door, and then we made $6 or something. So point being, we started at the in the mail room, so to speak, in Toronto, and then worked our way up from there.
So speaking of Toronto, you guys had a really important show in 1991 at the Horseshoe Tavern. This ties into you saying, a producer came in that really helped out with that first album. Do you want to share why that show was so important at the Horseshoe Tavern?
You said 99 or 89?
91. Was it
91.
1991? Apparently, this is where you guys connected with Chris Wardman, his girlfriend. Maybe
Yes, at
maybe there's
that
fake
point.
news on the internet here. We'll
No,
find out.
I think the whole Chris Wardman thing has been overstated a little bit. We wrote in a bio, we used the word discovered by Chris Wardman. And certainly Chris had an important part in that first album, but that went on to, because I will say certain journalists can be very lazy, and our bio was regurgitated for years and years. And it's still, there's a lot of internet out there that says we were discovered by Chris Wardman. We were not discovered by Chris Wardman. He came to an early showcase of ours. At that point, we had management. We had a sort of inclusive deal with our management. We went to all the labels to try to get the band signed, and it didn't happen. That's kind of a truncated version of what went down. Management that we had at the time financed our first album through a small imprint called Sumo. Sumo had distribution through MCA at the time that became Universal, and part of that 360 deal we had with management, record label, and publishing. The financing of our first record included Chris Wardman, who I think had a financial piece in things, but also produced that album. So that's a 91. I'm assuming you're referring to, I believe, and my memory could be wrong. We did a showcase for him. I think might have been at the Horseshoe. We were playing at the Horseshoe, and then maybe we came earlier and just played him our songs or something. I have a vague memory of that. And what I'm going to add here as well, just kind of going off script, so to speak. These are all my memories. I'm going to put a disclaimer here that this is not the opinions of my bandmates or the memories of my bandmates. So I'm going to just put that out there for the record.
So speaking about management, we have a fan question from Hillary Valancourt. Hillary's question is, how were you initially connected with Jake Gold?
Jake Gold was introduced to us by our booking agent at the time, a guy called Ralph James, who is still our booking agent. Ralph is a
He's one of the
former Winnipeg.
giants in Canada, right?
He is a giant, I would say, not because of his ego. That's a joke. Ralph was the original bass player in a band called Harlequin that were extremely successful in Canada, and he went on to book bands. And speaking of starting in the mailroom, he kind of blood, sweat, and tears to get to the top of that food chain, and he's extremely successful. He continues to be loyal to us because we were very, very loyal to him early on and remain loyal as he made some different moves over the years to different agencies. He introduced us to Jake. And from what I learned after the fact, Jake was sort of passed originally and wasn't immediately excited. And then him and Alan and Greg at the time, who had the management trust, wanted to expand their roster a bit and were keeping tabs on what we were doing. And he came around, and we were looking for management, and that really catapulted us to another level for sure. Signing with management trust, tragically Hips Management at the time.
Is it true that in the early years you guys were playing like 100, 150 shows a year?
It was insanity. I mean, I was 19, 20 years old. We had nothing to promote. We had t-shirts in the back of our van. I will hand it to Joey and Danny, and original bass player at the time, Pete, a guy called Pete Lavin, lovely guy. I would sit in the back and listen to music, and those guys probably didn't trust me to take the wheel. But hundreds of thousands of miles, the dead of winter, hot summers, every frosh week, in every major city in this country, we would be there. And this is all pre-record deal. This is all pre-McLaren. This is just sowing oats, so to speak, one fan at a time. That's a cliche. You go to a city, you play for 15 people, you come back, there's 30, blah, blah, blah. It really is the case for us. I think that hard work that we put in then, that's still paying dividends now, years and years later, because we always felt like we were doing it the right way. When we got to the point where there was radio promotion and videos and the ability to play on a national stage or get exposure on a national stage, other countries were involved. We had set so much up already, and it wasn't some big calculated move. We weren't that smart, but we had that, and we also would always remind ourselves that this is not take this away from us. When you get to the point where you rely on the promotion of a record label and they dangle their money in front of you and they put hundreds of thousands of dollars into a video and into this and to that, it's wonderful when it's there. It's great when you see some momentum building, but they could just as easily take that away. And we had that experience. But what we are now enjoying still 30 years down the road is doing it one fan at a time. And and I don't know if that's something that bands can do these days. That was a really important time for the band. I didn't know it at the time. It was grinding, it was hard, but we had little wins that kept us going along the way. So
You've mentioned to me that you've dealt with some stage fright or anxiety. Was that apparent all the way at the beginning, or did that build over time, maybe as the shows got bigger?
you know that yeah, that's an interesting topic. I mean, it's a whole big conversation. I struggle with anxiety generally. Most people do, and that gets sometimes exacerbated on stage. I still feel kind of sick the day of a show. I was talking with Danny, our singer, about I guess a couple months ago now. We were both waiting around at a show out west, and I said just to this we're waiting backstage on in 3 or 4 hours, and I said it's still to this day I feel like I have a low grade flu right now, just in anticipation of going on stage. But and it's no joke. When I was in my early 20s, I think what you're referring to is I had what I know now to be a panic attack on stage. It was in Guelph, and we were playing, I think it was at the time multiple sets. We were playing at a place called Brass Taps. It was with our original bass player, so it might have been in 91 or 92. I was 21, 22 years old. I was not introspective enough at the time to know what was going on. We were drinking a lot, hangovers, with that, kind of exacerbates. And I was making some mistakes on stage, and I started to sort of hyperventilate, and I needed to get through the set immediately. I kind of just barely got through the set, and I really didn't know what had happened. I thought it was okay. I made a mistake, and I started to critique and overthink, and then I kind of brushed it off. But I realized years later that was a panic attack on stage, and I spoke to a professional and learned some coping skills with managing the adrenaline that comes with jumping on stage. Um, and I still have those skills that I work on now. For about 10 years, I had a B written in Sharpie on my drum kit on my drum skin, my snare skin that reminded me to breathe because I'd be up there holding my breath. But now I'm a kind of a pro. I marvel at these moments where I'm just looking around and
Somehow the arms and legs are still going.
they're still going, but I slow things down really, really slow. And I mean, this sounds a little flaky, but it's very easy to be very sort of out of body when you're performing. And now I have moments every night where I just take some deep breaths and I look around and I take things in. But I have to remind myself of that all the time because it's like I said, the adrenaline can be all consuming. But yeah, I struggled with it for a long time. Now I kind of know there's a bit of it there, and a lot of it is just sort of anticipatory nerves. But back then, I really struggled, and it became sort of a performance anxiety thing. Before I went on stage, I would anticipate that panicky feeling, and I had to deal with it on a professional level. So,
So let's dive into the band's discography. So in 1992, you guys released McLaren Furnace Room. We've been talking a little bit about it. There's three singles: Cracked, Run and Hide, and Must to Be Free. The album ends up going gold. What thoughts, memories, emotions come back to you now when you think back to that album that kickstarted the adventure you've been on since then?
McLaren Furnace Room was a culmination of our first few years as far as the best songs we had written up until then. I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's kind of, I feel it's sort of Joey's album in a way because those are all his songs um, that he wrote, and he was very prolific at the time. Um, from what I know now, he was writing from a very pure place, not influenced by record labels and record advances and singles. And it was just like, these are my songs. And he had a group of people in Pete, the original bass player, Danny, and myself, who supported that. Um, yeah, and those are still some great songs. I mean, we've got a lot of songs that have not stood the test of time in our discography, and some that have, and we play 78% of those songs still, which to me that's all there is to say. They're very they're I'm not going to say simple. Um, they're just good songs. And That was also a time when Chris helped us consolidate the sound a little bit. He gave us a bit of a rough edge, which in hindsight was a really, really important and smart thing to do because that coincided with heavier guitars and more of a rock sound that was permeating through what was on the radio and such. So, yeah, it's a lot of great memories. I remember the first time seeing the physical CD and a cassette of McLaren, and it was very exciting for sure because we'd done so many demos up until then, tapes and what have you, and this was a CD, and it was mastered by a guy named Howie Weinberg. If your listeners want to Google him, he's kind of he is literally the master as far as mastering is concerned. He worked with a lot of great bands. And I remember learning from Wardman that Howie Weinberg's going to be producing it, or mastering it. So, yeah, very, very cool time for sure. It's a great, I've said this before, a great first album because we had there was some growth that was needed. There was some stuff that needed improving, but you don't want to come out of your gates sort of fully formed. And we were not fully formed as a band, but it really encapsulates what was happening at the time.
So you remember seeing the physical cassette for the first time. Do you remember hearing your music on radio for the first time?
The guys, I've heard other members of the band talk in interviews how we were driving to Toronto and they heard Cracked on the radio. I don't remember that. I do not remember
Maybe
that,
you were
but
sleeping in the back.
I might have been sleeping. Yeah, I might have been sleeping. Might have had a hangover sleeping. But yeah, I rarely hear the band on the radio. I've heard it. They still play stereo on Q107 pretty regularly, and I people tell me they hear us on the radio, and I see the royalty checks. But I don't remember that specific instance, Joel.
The title of the album that refers to the band's rehearsal space, is that correct?
Yes.
We have a question about that space. So this is from Andrew Lars. Andrew's question is, how do I get my hands on an MFR poster or a PDF so I can print my own?
Uh, we we have a bunch of those posters kicking around. The Jake Gold, as a matter of fact, he was getting rid of a warehouse, sorry, a storage spot that he had been renting for a number of years, and he called me and said, "You need to come down here to get all this Watchmen shit." And I came down, and I've got just hundreds of posters sitting in my basement, much to my wife's dismay. Um, I don't know. Get the guy to email me or something, and we'll figure it out. But because we have lots of posters, we sold some at a show recently, a couple years ago. I think we if you buy a T-shirt, you get a poster or something. But yeah, no problem. We'll get them a McLaren Furnace Room poster.
The music videos for the first two singles got some play on Much Music. You mentioned you haven't heard the Watchmen music on radio that much. Did you ever catch the videos on Much Music?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Later on, when we started to get into sort of the heavy rotation phase, I did see. Yeah, that was always super exciting, and you knew that you were on a national scale. So, uh, yeah, that was cool. We did a video for Cracked. We had somebody come down. I mean, videos have kind of a love-hate relationship with videos because I and I've said this before. I feel sort of it's sort of tainted me a little bit as far as some of the songs where we have videos because when I hear the song, I see the video, and video. Make no mistake, it was a lever to pull when you wanted to get some national awareness, but it couldn't have been more um, uncreative, if that's a word, as far as a working band is concerned. I started to think about how Winnipeg, Canada felt very small around the time we were doing videos. I know Much Music. I will caveat with how important Much Music was certainly to our career, but we would always have jokes about the videos. We would get treatments from these people, and we would pass on the treatments. Then we'd see, I Mother Earth with the
The
same
next band.
treatment video. Yeah, next band, same director. We all had access to the same pool of directors. Joey could be one of the funniest people I know when he wants to be. And he once made a comment we were getting styled wardrobe for a video for a song called Zoom on Brand New Day. And we were putting these sort of cheap suits on to give us sort of a specific look. And he said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember. He said, I think I saw 5440 wearing these in their last video. And just thinking about that makes me laugh because he was right. I mean, it was just those, the same budget, same director. Um, but look, that's just me being a cynical asshole and joking around. Grateful that we had record labels giving us piles of money to make videos. But and I have certain interviewers, they ask me about these videos. I just don't really put too much stock in it. I'm grateful for them, like I said, but it's not nothing. There was no creativity involved.
Yeah, the music is what was most important, and then videos were just a marketing tool later on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, to think that we were around at a time when labels were spending 70, 80,000 dollars on a video, and that in Canada was a lot. They, international bands would spend millions on videos. And it was something that would get recouped and would make it made sense in the economy of the music industry back then. And it's all relative. But we benefited by videos for sure, because like you said, it was that the ability just to get your music out there for sure. It was important thing. Much Music was amazing.
I remember hearing that Michael Jackson spent $3 million making the Scream music video, and you're like, man, the amount of money thrown around, Even though he's a billion-dollar brand, so it makes sense.
It probably made sense at the time. It's like, look, if they spend 3 million, they'll get 50 million back. It's simple math, you know. So, um, but it's rare that I watch a video now. Do they make videos still? I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah,
I mean,
straight to
maybe,
YouTube, but yeah.
yeah. So.
Times have changed. Later on, I'll definitely ask you about how the music industry has changed from when you started to today. I went back, I listened to the entire discography for the Watchmen, and man, this debut album, the drums sound awesome. Right off the bat, the very first song, Crack, the drums slap right out of the gate. There's kind of a live off the floor vibe to the album. I don't know if that's actually how it was recorded. Can you share some insights into how you achieved your signature drum sound and how maybe it's changed over the years? So I don't know if you had a specific drum kit or company you used back then and if that changed over the years.
For that record in particular, just to sort of stay focused on McLaren, I remember Chris had a specific idea about what he wanted as a producer, and that was helpful. The Watchmen need producers. We need an impartial opinion when we're trying to create. That's a different topic. But Chris, who we trusted, he, I'm trying to remember now. He had a buddy who had a great Yamaha kit. I think it might have been Joel Anderson, who was in the Skydiggers and then played with Art Bergman. I think it was his kit. He had me put these specific skins on, coated ambassadors, top and bottom. He was an expert drum tuner, I remember, Wardman. Really, really good drum tuner. And we did it, yeah, it was more or less live off the floor. I mean, I think I did my drums on that album in 2 or 3 days, 1 or 2 takes. It was my first exposure to a click track, and I was a little intimidated with that. It took me a while to get into that, but now I love playing to a click track just to really be rock solid. So that was a learning curve for me. I remember being uncomfortable with it at the start, but those songs are played to a click track. But I also remember arguing with him a little bit as well because he would suggest tunings that I wasn't happy with, that to me didn't sound very good. And the attack on the drum, I'm getting very technical here. The attack on the drum would be different because the shell would be the skin on the shell would be so loose. I remember this very specifically. He'd be like, "Just trust me. You'll hear how it sounds. I know it doesn't feel the same." And he was very sarcastic, Chris. I would tune up the drum when he'd go to the control and he says, "That sounds like a hit single drum. You've changed the tuning. Do we like the hit single drum? We don't want it to have," he wanted to be kind of alternative and subversive and whatever. But I'd be like, well, it's the way I like it sounding. And so there was some friction there, I remember. But so I have to be honest, there's some cringy moments on McLaren for me. I haven't listened to it in a lot of years, but I'm not thrilled with the drum sounds on that album. Not that it matters one bit, but it's a sound. It's cool. There's some cool stuff on there for sure. I know that Chris really liked a big sound, but it's a little wide open for me, if I'm being completely honest.
Is there a specific album where you feel like, man, we nailed the drum sound?
Silent Radar, 100%, because we're playing the kit that I still have. It's an AOD kit. AOD is a company, a Canadian company that at one point made some of the best drums I feel like in the world. They're no longer a company. I had a drum tech who helped me tune, a guy named Greg Keplinger. And Greg is kind of a legend in the industry of music. He makes drums. He makes a drum called the Keplinger drum, naturally. So yeah, it was very, and those were just kind of like very natural, organic sounding recordings on Silent Radar, and it was my kit. So the snare sound on stereo is the snare I use to this day, and it exemplified what I liked and what I felt the most comfortable with at the time. So yeah, that's probably the one.
Producer Chris Wardman, he's credited on the album for dragon noises. Can you explain what dragon noises are, or is this an inside joke?
A lot of producers, what they'll do is they'll want to put their own stamp on a recording. We had one guy who we did demos with who wanted to put lap steel on everything, and he's an incredible talent and an amazing lap steel player. But it was just all of a sudden we'd be just like, "What's that lap steel in there?" Is so Chris. I'm assuming he probably did some feedback or something, and it's on there. I don't remember what he did exactly. I remember he had a buddy, Sam, not Sam, Jason Snyderman, whose father owned Sam the Record Man, play Mellotron on Must to Be Free. And it's so low in the mix, I could barely hear it. I remember being very excited about, oh my God, there's going to be Mellotron on McLaren Furnace Room, and it's buried in the mix. But I don't know what the dragon noises are. I don't know.
I guess
Maybe
the dragon noises are just a part of the Watchmen lore, so that's why I ask
could
about
be.
these things.
That's a seriously in-depth question. I'm impressed that you've got that, Joel. So
That's why we
let's
have 2 hours. We're allowed to go into the weeds a little bit before we come back on track.
go deep into the weeds.
So the next album, 1994, In the Trees. So there's 4 singles: Boneyard Tree, Wiser, All Uncovered, and Lusitana. Is that how you pronounce it?
Lusitana, yeah.
Lusitana. So the
Yeah.
album goes gold, the album goes platinum. This is considered the band's big breakthrough album in Canada. Do you remember receiving the news that the album had gone gold and then platinum?
Uh,
That's a big
I
deal.
yeah, it was a big deal. I mean, just to add some context, we had gone from a distribution deal with MCA to a sort of a full-blown record deal with it was still MCA at the time. So we had the support, the full support of a record label in advance of Trees, and there was a significant lift in terms of promotion. I remember there's billboards around Winnipeg, with our face on the billboards, and just a massive blanket of press that was happening, expensive videos. So we were kind of in the machine pretty dramatically at that point, because we had the full support of a label.
Was it the momentum from McLaren that showed the label, okay, no, we need more than just to distribute their albums. We need to take them on legit,
Yeah,
so
I
to
think
speak.
so. I mean, look, we toured McLaren extensively. We There was a lineup change within this time frame. Pete Lavin, who was our original bass player, is a terrific bass player. Very kind of meat and potatoes, groove oriented bass player. Very much stylistically similar to the way I played, for better for worse. And then he moved on. Wanted to spend more time with his family. Wasn't really Didn't have the same ambition that we did, and so there was a couple of years in there. I mean, he stuck around till we found somebody. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is when we hired and brought on Ken, we had some auditions. He was the guy. He added another element to what we were doing, and that was group songwriting. So that was a very significant change. We had in our back pocket a great composer in Joey, but we also had suddenly the option of writing collectively. And I think that was at the time largely influenced by some of the stuff that Ken was bringing in. So to answer your question simply, we had built relations with people at MCA at the time through our work promoting McLaren, and that allowed, assuming at the time, Jake to sort of speak to the label and say, "Look, we're shopping and looking, and would you like to?" They probably had some sort of first right of refusal or something at the time. So yeah, we were like an MCA signing at the time.
And I think I remember seeing a picture of you guys receiving your plaques. I don't know if that's for the platinum or the gold or
Oh yeah,
maybe a
you're asking.
different
Yeah, we
album.
got. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, we were presented gold records with Trees. Uh, and yeah, it was, I think they maybe they surprised us. Ralph James was there, Jake was there, it was in Winnipeg, I believe. I think we were playing with Junk House in Winnipeg at the time,
Nice.
if memory serves. And yeah, it was very cool. It felt legitimate. It's hanging on my wall back there, the gold record.
Is it true that after the success of In the Trees, then the McLaren album went gold? Is that the timeline?
Yes, exactly. Yep, it went gold. I don't know the dates, but uh, it, yeah, we got to gold status on McLaren. That one felt really good too because it was obviously the debut, and it was sort of moved from strength to strength, and certainly the promotion that was a part of the trees cycle uh, catapulted McLaren as well. So yeah, very cool.
I was going to ask if the McLaren going gold, if that was extra special because you basically did that as an indie band with all your hard work before, and there was just a little gasoline added to it once you moved over to the major label.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what happened.
Listening to the albums, with that album, the song All Uncovered, your drums are super unique on that song. Do you remember coming up with that drum part, like as you guys are writing the song?
Yeah, I've told this story before, and it's worth repeating because it was very exciting, the all uncovered thing, because that sort of epitomized the group writing that we were doing at the time, because we needed material, and we would often spend time. We would lock ourselves in a room together and try to write. It's torture. And we just had a writing session a few weeks ago, and it's still torture. But more often than not, we come up with stuff. And that day, Ken, I believe it was him. He came in with a basic riff. I learned later, much later, that he'd been listening to the song "Secret Journey" by the Police. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You took that from Secret Journey?" But that's a different story. Can I swear on this? Sorry,
Sure. Yeah.
um, but it morphed into a Watchmen song. So it was very organic. He started playing this riff. I think at the time we had agreed we might want to try to play or incorporate a 3/4 time signature into what we were doing. Ken played his thing. Joey added something. Danny started sort of improvising. And I do remember very distinctly with that song, we had gotten to about 2 minutes into the song where what we composed that afternoon is what the song is. And it broke down kind of naturally, but we looked at each other, and I remember laughing, thinking that's great. Danny sort of hit a high note, and it kind of hit a peak, and it was just it sounds corny. There was a bit of magic in the room. It's what songwriters strive for, and that's the really sort of the addictive thing that comes with creating. I'm sure we ended up recording it on a crude little dictaphone or something after, but we felt like we had something really good, and we're really, really proud of it. And that song, to this day, and this, like I said, I can't say this about all our songs, not even close. I still get chills playing it live. I still enjoy playing it live. It's a great arrangement. It's different, and fans, the energy we get from audiences when we play that is always exciting. But yeah, I was playing what's called blast sticks with that song. It's kind of a hybrid brush stick type of instrument, and it just gave the song a different quality. So that added to it as well, for sure. And that song, I think, single-handedly gave In the Trees a kind of a new lease on life after Boneyard Tree had run its course. We were kind of in the middle of an album cycle, not sure where to go next. I don't know whose idea was it to release All Uncovered as a single.
They deserve a raise.
Yeah, I don't know who thought of it. Wasn't me.
Mm.
But it launched the record. It gave it a new life, and and we were like shifting units, as they say back then. It really helped things, and still a great song.
I have some kind words sent in from another iconic Canadian drummer. This is someone that has memories from that period of time you're talking about. This is from original Our Lady Peace drummer Jeremy Taggart. He says, "Our first big festival was with the Watchmen in 1994 at Sunfest in Gimli, Manitoba. I always thought that Sammy was a very solid drummer, and I knew I liked him when he confessed his love for Elvin Jones. So that's from
Mm,
Jeremy Taggart.
nice, nice, very nice. Yeah, I follow Jeremy on Instagram, and he's a real personality with some comedic chops. But he also, from time to time, he'll get on the drum kit and he'll just like start grooving away. I'm like, man, this guy, he's got some pocket. He's he's a great drummer. But yeah, that's cool. Very nice. Thanks, Jeremy.
You guys received your first Juno nomination during that period of time with that album for Group of the Year. That's one of the big nominations you can get. What did that first Juno nomination mean to you? That's your country acknowledging your music, your talent, your hard work.
I think it meant that my parents can get off my back about my career choice. I think that's what it meant, Joel.
A little validity.
Yeah, no, I mean it was yeah, it was exciting. It was I don't know if it really moved the needle as far as our own work ethic or our own uh, desire to continue to work and to write and that sort of thing. But it did, all jokes aside, it did kind of legitimize what we were doing a bit. Like I said, I feel like the band there was some struggle as far as getting on the national stage because of what I felt was a bit of a Toronto centric industry. Hope I don't get any hate mail for that. But when we had those national accolades, it was something we really appreciated for sure. And then we would go to the Junos, and you kind of think, cross your fingers, maybe we'll win this. We never won a Juno, but yeah, thinking back now, it's unbelievable how much the industry's changed. I can't remember the last time I watched the Junos. Last time I did, I looked over at my wife Sarah and I said, I don't know any of these bands. I don't know. I don't. I'm sound like an old man. The industry's just changed so much. But it was an amazing time for Canadian bands in the '90s with just a really good group of just real bands who wrote songs, who toured, who a lot of them, the really good ones, had their own sort of identity. Some of them, a lot of them are still playing today. Um, and I still enjoy listening to a lot of them. I think Sloan are a bunch of geniuses, the way they market themselves with their artwork, and with, you kind of choose your favorite member of Sloan, and it was
They switch their
uh,
instruments in between songs. Like the whole band
yeah,
just
I mean,
shifts one instrument. And you're like, what?
yeah, I mean, look, that's not really that's cool, but what I find more interesting is how, and I get their references. There's like sort of pastiche from '60s, '70s, I'm probably the same age as a lot of those guys, so I see kind of what they're doing here and there, and I really appreciate it. I wrote Chris Murphy. I'm gonna just drop a name here. Last year, a couple years ago, they put a record out, and I listened to it, and there was this piano song that Chris Murphy must have written because he sang it, and it was fantastic. And I wrote him a note, I don't know, maybe through Instagram or something. I said, to pull that kind of trick out of your ass, 30 years in, I was very, very impressed. That's really hard to do that on your 12th album, whatever it is. You just wrote a really, really great song, and he was grateful. And um, but yeah, so yeah, they're a great. Big Sugar, great band. Just fantastic guitars, and we all clamored to get on a bigger stage, metaphorically, and that's an American audience. And that was, I think, the biggest challenge that a lot of bands faced back then was the thumbs up and the legitimacy of other countries appreciating what you're doing. And I look back with a lot of clarity now. I know how the industry works. I know that Much Music will play your band if you're signed to a major label, and there's obligations and responsibilities with radio people who create playlists and such. So, and then CanCon, of course. There's a whole lot that goes into it. So I it was really exciting for the Watchmen when we started to tour into some different markets as well and see some traction happening in other countries because we knew that we needed to do that to sort of keep going. And we weren't taking anything for granted. We loved the fact that had a certain level of popularity in Canada, but we also knew instinctively that we needed to widen the scope of things as well.
As you started to tour in other countries, you started to find success there as well. I remember seeing you guys chart in Australia. Did it mean something special to you to see other countries where you show up in the charts?
Yeah, exactly. It did. I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at is I know that by the time were touring Australia, EMI Canada had a relationship with EMI Australia, and they had some success with some other bands who are Canadian who went down there. It was a long trip, but we did it. I think we were there 3 times in total. We did some major touring and major promotions there, and yeah, it was. It just felt like it was very meaningful to be appreciated by a different country where perhaps the country wasn't sort of obligated to play you, if that makes sense. That sounds a little bit cynical, and I don't mean that to come off that way. I just mean it just boosted our confidence. Let me put it that way, to see that there was other countries that where what we were doing was making sense. And we would do everything and anything. We didn't say no to anybody back then. We did all the shows, all the morning TV, BS, everything, all the radio stations. We went down to Australia once for close to 3 weeks and just did promotion. I had a set of bongos that I walked around with, and we didn't play any shows. We just promoted Silent Radar. Um, so we wanted to make it happen for ourselves.
Yeah, for some reason, Australians just love Canadian bands. You mentioned EMI had other Canadian bands that had success in Australia. I think the Tea Party were EMI and they had platinum success in Australia as well. I wonder what it is about Australians and Canadians when it comes to music.
Well, at the time, if memory serves, they just liked good bands, good rock and roll bands. And
That's the
I
easiest
know,
explanation, right? Just there was good music from Canada.
well, yeah, I remember in Germany, they loved rock too. We played some big rock festivals there. In some of those countries, rock is still a thing. Rock is not a thing anymore. If you look at the charts, Billboard now, the Foo Fighters, maybe. I mean, are they still putting records out? I mean, it's not a rock world right now. Back then in the 90s, everything was rock. Um, and But I loved Australian bands too. There's some of my favorite bands are Australian. So yeah, whatever the case may be, I'm not sure exactly what the kinship is there, but it felt comfortable out there for sure. 24 hours in the air on a plane, you know, it takes years off your life in terms of jet lag, but it was always worth it.
We have a deep cut question from a fan. This is from Paul Broadfoot. The question is, at Snow Job 1995, they opened with a banger that some fans think is a song called Warrior and others call it Warning. What is the real title and did they ever record it? Do you know what they're talking about?
I know what they're talking about. We had the audacity when we were invited to play Snow Job, which for your listeners who don't know, it was 1995, I think. We were promoting in the trees and we were in Banff, and then Much Music would come down with a crew and they would film and it would be simulcast live. And it looked like Woodstock out there in Banff. It was packed. And that moment, as a matter of fact, I think really energized popularity. People could see what we're doing live. But excuse me, I'm digressing. We decided to play a new song to open the set, and it's kind of a ballsy move. And it was this song. We didn't have a name for it, and the way I remember it is we always have working titles for songs, and we have like a little placeholder, and sometimes the placeholder just takes shape and stays put. And we were and still fans of the movie The Warriors. This is how I remember it. So we called the song Warrior. There's just a placeholder. I think that's the way it went down. It's this little 2 minute sort of banger. that we never recorded. But a lot of people have mentioned it because it was sort of this rock song that was very highly energetic. And but yeah, very uh, like I said, ballsy move to be playing nationally and to open your set with a song that nobody's ever heard. But I like that kind of stuff. It's we took chances.
In 1996, you guys released the album Brand New Day. There's three singles, Incarnate, Shut Up, and Zoom. Were you guys feeling just a ton of pressure from record labels after the platinum success of the last album?
I don't know if we were sort of just specifically feeling pressure. I just don't know that we had time to really put together uh, material that was conducive to play live. That's how I interpret it. Over the years, we've kind of been hard on that album, but the way I look at it now is that's just an album that is not meant to be played live. Those are songs that I think are more ones where you can throw it on at a dinner party or something, listen to some nice melodic Watchmen. Um, it's not that they're not good songs, because the truth is we don't play any of those. We play maybe a couple of them live now. Uh, and that is the ultimate litmus test. Is it still something you play in your set list? We've tried a lot of them and they've just sort of organically gone away. But to answer your question, I don't think we were specifically feeling pressure at the time. We probably could have used some direction from maybe an A&R team or something. Uh, there's we could point the finger here, there, wherever, but at the end of the day, we just didn't have the good songs, or not good songs. We didn't have, uh, in some cases, songs that were as strong and songs that were really ones that will make sense live. So, but no, I'd say in a word, no, this wasn't because of pressure on the trees. On the contrary, I think we felt overconfident that we could put a song like Beach Music on the album that's just piano and voice. I remember listening to Automatic for the People by REM, and we all love that album. It's an incredible album, and it's got a song called Night Swimming on it. And I remember thinking, let's have a night swimming on Brand New Day. I mean, but the most popular band in the world, REM, can pull that off, but not little old the Watchmen from Winnipeg. So yeah, it was a uh, maybe a misstep in certain ways, but yeah, I'm still proud of a lot of the stuff on there.
With you guys being road warriors, you ended up touring with a ton of great bands. So I'm sure you can share some stories with bands that you've been on the road with. We have one fan question first. This is from Sylvain Mercier. His question is, what was it like touring with Canadian rock royalty, the Tragically Hip?
We get that question a lot, and it was I will say it was always exciting, obviously, and I think the most exciting time was when we would be working with them in the States. We did a series of shows around Cincinnati and Cleveland and Washington, D.C., I think. I'm trying to remember, it was around trees. We played in Chicago with them. Um, this was Phantom Power for them, and it was Silent Radar for us. And not only were they generous and lovely people who had crew that treated us with respect, it was also inspiring watching them every night. And I have told this story before, but it's true and it's worth retelling. At the time I was going through, I was in a new relationship, and I was more interested in going back to the hotel and speaking on the phone with my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, than watching the headliner of shows when we were on multiple bills. So I would always say to myself, okay, fans are gonna kill me for this because it's hard to believe what I'm about to say. I would say, okay, I don't want to watch the Hip tonight at this 500 seat bar. I just want to go home and speak to my girlfriend on my landline. Um, but I'd say, okay, I'll just stay for one song. They would kick into, at the time they were playing Grace 2 as their opener every night, and I would be swept in. I would be just like immediately transfixed by what was happening. It was this Dionysian level performance that wasn't just a band playing songs. It was they created something very unique. It was performance. It was really exciting, and I felt that. Um, and that would be night after night. I would say the same thing. I'll stick around for a song, and I'd sit there the whole night and watch them because I couldn't leave. And there's very few bands that I've seen that had that effect. And I'm not just this isn't hyperbole. They were fantastic at the time, and we were all huge fans. They were a big influence on us as far as their whole aesthetic was concerned, for sure. Big influence on everybody in the country and beyond.
The album Brand New Day receives a Juno nomination for Rock Album of the Year. Was that something special, seeing as the album wasn't the commercial success that maybe you hoped for, that at least you got kind of the critical acclaim with the Juno nomination?
I don't think it was quite like that. I do remember after I think it was after in one of the singles, we had a meeting with our agent and manager, and they were kind of informing us that the record was, I think in their words, it was done. The label has stopped promoting the record. We have to sort of think of a contingency plan here. Time to start writing some more material. And I remember being very deflated after that. But like I said earlier, I've come around on that album. Wasn't that commercially successful? So what? I mean, I think it's hovering around. I heard about 50,000 copies is, or maybe it has gotten gold. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But honestly, no, it didn't really matter that we were at that point. I was probably pretty cynical, thinking they probably just needed to round out the category with some bands that released albums that year, if I'm being honest. So, just telling you the truth, my friend.
That's what we want. So we have a fan question. This is from Aaron Roeder. More deep cuts here. What about the unreleased songs Venus and Seven Times? Are there any demos or recordings? I'm willing to Venmo the cash right now for those two. Those are two of the best songs that were only played live for a short period of time. So that's from Aaron.
Well, if you want to give
You could
Aaron
make a
money,
little Venmo deposit right
he can
here.
certainly email me $100 a song, and I'll see what I could do. No, I don't know what Venus is. Not a clue.
Okay.
Uh,
Venus and Seven Times. All right.
Venus, I don't know what we would often workshop songs when we were playing live a lot. We would, because a lot of times when you're writing as a band, you think your latest material is your best, and you're excited to play it. And it's an important step to get to the point where you're playing a song. When you're playing a song and you're seeing what kind of reaction emerges or lack of reaction, it really informs things like arrangement, and it just kind of it pushes you to maybe rearrange and throw the song away. The song he's mentioning there seven times, I think I know the one he's talking about. We were playing that around the Silent Radar tour. There was a bunch of them in that around that time, and it just didn't make the cut. It went away, and that happens sometimes. It just wasn't inspiring. And if I'm playing a song and I'm bored halfway through, or other people are, then chances are other people listening are probably feeling the same thing. So, yeah, great that we've got fans that dig into the history like that, because I do the same thing with bands, kind of geeking out on some of these deep tracks, and it's special to them, and I love that. I totally get it. Because when I was young too, I was before the internet, I would be sort of a collector of rarities and that sort of thing. So there's lots of Watchmen material out there that's never been recorded.
You have fans that have a voracious appetite for more Watchmen music. That's what you want in your
Look,
fans, right?
I think there's six of them, Joel, last time I checked.
But man, they love the music.
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah. So in 1998, you guys released the album Silent Radar. There's four singles: Stereo, Any Day Now, Say Something, and Brighter Hell. The album goes gold. Stereo and Any Day Now were both top five hits in Canada. Man, both songs are just undeniable hits. Like to me, they sound like what a hit should sound like. When you finished writing both songs, did you know you had something special on your hands? Or is it only once they take off at radio where you go, oh yeah, okay, those are hits?
More the latter in that no, we were far from thinking that these were our hits. We genuinely did not go down that road in our mind. What I will say is, after Brand New Day, after we realized that, hey, we've got this pile of songs that we're not that interested in bringing into our live show, I remember thinking that we want to scale it back a little bit. We had done a tour with a band called Weeping Tile that is Sarah Harmer's band.
Nice.
And Sarah would always be backstage before and after shows with her acoustic guitar playing songs. And I have a memory of being very inspired by uh, songs that were just powerful on an acoustic guitar. And it's a bit foggy, but I do remember having a conversation or thinking more along the lines of we need to come back to some songs here for Silent Radar, and we wrote what I feel is the best batch of songs. We always just went into an album with more songs than we needed. Maybe we recorded all of them. Maybe we only recorded about 10 or 11 or 12, whatever. There was rarely sort of anything thematically happening with what we were doing or a sort of a story to tell. This is our breakup album. This is our drug addiction album. It wasn't like that. It was just these were our best songs. And Yeah, we went in with that attitude. I don't remember stereo being something that where there was this kind of light bulb that went off, but I do remember Any Day Now. I remember Danny. I was rooming with him at the time. We were staying at this hotel that we spent years at together in Toronto. We weren't living in Toronto at the time. Him and I were in Winnipeg. We'd come to Toronto to write, and he taped on his dictaphone Any Day Now, the crude Any Day Now that we had worked on. And I remember thinking, this is good. This is great. This is a nice, 4-minute pop song. I used to joke call it our Phil Collins song because my mom liked it. And I'm not sure if that was a good thing at the time, trying to be a dangerous grunge band. Your mommy likes the song. It wasn't really the ideal audience, but all jokes aside, it's a good song. Ben Montench is playing on it from Tom Petty, our producer. Had a pretty thick Rolodex with contacts, and he said, I can get Tom Petty's uh, Hammond organ player to add something to this. And we're just, sure, take it out of the old budget. And Danny went down to LA, and Ben Mon played on the song, and it's beautiful. The organ's right up there in the mix, and really, really proud of that album for sure.
So Stereo is the band's most popular song on Spotify, 7 million plays. Why do you think people love that song so much?
Well, first of all, it gets a lot of radio play still, so it's out there a lot. It's got, I think it really pops on the radio too. Uh, I mean, it's kind of a joke. The snare is the loudest thing in the mix, which I'm not sure how that happened. I wasn't there for the mix, but Adam
When they were
Casper,
turned around, you didn't just sneak up the
no,
snare
no,
fader?
I tried. They kicked me out. But Adam Casper, who mixed the album, had been recently working with um, Queens of the Stone Age and Soundgarden and Foo Fighters, and I was thrilled. I mean, he's like Mr. Drum's really loud guy, and I was proud of what I did on that record. So it's just a kind of in-your-face rock song that it's got an amazing vocal performance on it, a chorus that sticks out. I love the fact that those songs, that album in particular, we were lucky enough to get the songs professionally recorded at a time when record labels were sinking thousands of dollars into recordings. Now the barrier to entry to get into recorded music is a laptop with your garage band in your stinky basement. Then it was a record deal. Here's the money, record. You go through the A&R system. You scrutinize over mixes. Here's one with the kick drum louder. Here's one with the vocal down, up, etc. And that song, it's a radio song. So uh, does it have a lot of depth to it? I don't know. Does it have a lot of uh, does it give you the does it create a beat, or does it make you want to dance? No, it does not. But it's a cool song.
I can give you a 13-year-old's perspective of hearing the song for the first time because I was 13 when this song came out. And I
Okay,
remember
let's hear it.
I would wait by the radio, and when that song came on, I would lose my mind. I'd never heard anything like that song before. A song where it's basically just guitar and vocals for a portion of it, and the guitar seems to be kind of like fading in and fading out, and the song, it says stereo and about phasing and this stuff, and it feels like the guitar is phasing in and out, and it just seemed
Right.
like this one congruent thing. And Danny's vocals are unbelievable. I think he has one of the great rock voices. It's such a pleasant vocal. You could play me a million bands, and as soon as you play anything Danny sings, I can tell it's Danny. There's something distinct about his voice. And I remember it was my favorite song when it came out. And I went out and I bought this album. And to this day, when I think about the Watchmen, I think about stereo, I think about the album Silent Radar. The the album is so polished, and I'm saying that in a good way. Like
Hmm.
it just sounds so great and so polished. And stereo and Any Day Now to me is like the ultimate 1-2 punch. Like those are undeniable. You hear those and you go, that's a hit. That is definitely a hit. And I look at that as that's the Watchmen. And the albums before it to me were more indie sounding, a band that were working their way up to Silent Radar. And, after
Mm.
that with Slow Motion, it's like, oh, it's a band that's experimenting with electronic sounds. But the band itself to me is the Silent Radar sound. That's my 13-year-old self talking. To this day, that's what sticks with me.
Well, look, I love that because I know that at that age, everybody has that band that kind of hits them like that, and that stays with you. You're thinking from not such a critical mind. What's the you're just it's hitting you in a way you don't even know what hit you. And I have those examples too. And yeah, I will say with all humility, I mean that album is really beautifully recorded. Uh, but we also went into it very, very prepared. What I will say is we spent a couple years really, really working on our songcraft. I think we were really getting good at writing as sort of group compositions at the time on the heels of Brand New Day. And we did a special edition, a kind of a deluxe edition of Radar a few years ago, and it's got some unmixed versions of what ended up on the album, as well as some live stuff, some outtakes. But there's also this demo of Silent Radar that we did with a guy called Matt DiMatteo, who is to me an unsung hero of talent in this country. He's an incredible drummer, amazing producer. He's worked with Danko Jones, Big Wreck, first album Big Wreck. His drum sounds are incredible. But we have this other version of Silent Radar that Matt DiMatteo recorded. The arrangements are exactly the same as they are on the final version, which to me says that we were very prepared. Uh, because we were playing those songs to death. The arrangements were really sort of refined. We're kind of just like all there, all for one, one for all around that time. So anyway, thank you for saying that. That's very cool. I'm like I said, proud of that record for sure.
We have a fan question from Nikki. She says, Sammy is the best. What does the song Brighter Hell mean to the band so us fans know the true meaning?
It means nothing to me. No, it's Brighter Hell. Brighter Hell kind of exemplifies the kind of emotional, sort of introspective side of the band. We had that rock sound in stereo, and then the last song on the album was something that we tapped into lyrically: loss, regret, death. With He's Gone. The guys, Joey and Danny, were experimenting with some of that stuff. Danny was writing. He wrote that song lyrically. We composed it sort of as a group. And I remember talking about how early on we wanted to have sort of a very kind of a signature last song of an album. I always liked when bands had last songs that left you wanting more with this kind of with this crescendo. Middle East does that on In the Trees as well. The last song, it starts with its like a little bongo and ends up with the four of us kind of noisy, making this loud crescendo. And it's thinking in terms of an album or a CD at the time. Brighter Hell had that aesthetic as well. And that's the kind of stuff I love. I was just talking to a friend of mine, just a bit of a tangent here. Rick Davies from Supertramp just passed away. I don't know if you're a fan. I am a fan. I'm not a huge fan, but I'm definitely a fan. I was talking to him. He's a friend of mine, Sean from Winnipeg, who is a massive fan. But he was saying, I'm, sad to hear about Rick Davies. And I said, Supertramp just took you places. They took you on this sort of journey. Uh, you don't see their videos. You don't see them even because they're a radio band, I suppose. But that was something that we certainly strive for was a musical journey, if you will. Sounds really kind of pretentious now that I'm hearing myself, but we that's what we liked as far as certain bands and certain records were concerned, certain songs. So just in a simple nutshell, Brighter Hell, I think we're trying to do something really special with that one in that regard.
The groove on the song Rooster is so good. How do you achieve that groove? Like, do you just have to lay way back on the drums?
Yeah, I'm a groove player, Joel. Those are that my players,
The
Steve
Groove
Jordan.
Master, baby.
Well, that's Watchmen are interesting in that I feel like Joey and I are almost the rhythm section in the Watchmen. We're really locked in terms of how we play and the way he plays, the way I play. I'm very much playing to the best of my abilities, which is groove. Um, like I said earlier, repetition. Just it's something I sort of feel. It's not about flash. It's not about chops. And Ken is a rather sort of busy bass player, and that complements my less is more style. So we have a bass player that wants to be a lead guitarist, and then maybe a guitarist that wants to be Pete Townsend and more of a rhythm guy who writes words, and then I'm kind of just keeping time, and then a singer who I feel is certainly exceptional, who people turn their head when they hear him. Um, but anyway, yeah, Rooster. To be honest with you, Rooster, I'm going to just lay it on the line. I can't stand listening to that song
How
because,
dare you, sir?
because the tempo is all over the place. I didn't use a click track on Silent Radar, and there's like five tempos on that song, and it's not a good take of the song. I'm really demystifying something here, but it's cool because Ben Montange plays on it, but I'm it's a little cringy, and I don't listen to it, and not because of that. I just don't go back and listen to my band. It's like staring in a mirror all day, but I remember it just being kind of all over the place. But
But the
it's yeah,
vibes
we
are
wanted to.
so good. The vibes.
Okay, all right. I trust you. You know more about this stuff than I do. I mean,
I don't know about that, but anyways, I remember listening to it and it just like it had such atmosphere and such a great vibe. So I thought I
yeah.
would point that out.
I think we're going for something like that. I'm kind of skirting around the question here. It's yeah, we love those darker, groovier kind of moments of introspection. Some critics I remember reading in Australia that they would say that the album's kind of all over the map stylistically, but that's the band, that's the Watchmen. I mean, you've got stuff like Stereo, then you've got stuff like Brighter Hell. So that's who we are.
So you guys received your third Juno nomination in a row. That's three albums in a row. And we have a fan question here again from Paul Broadfoot. He had a bunch of questions, so I kind of pick and choose through them. So his question is, in 2011, you played and recorded a show at the Horseshoe where the band played Silent Radar front to back. What is your opinion on full album shows, and would you ever play another one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was very popular a few years back. I think we did do Silent Radar in sequence once, front to back. But with the Watchmen, Joel, it's about time. It's about the ability um, to carve out the time to rehearse and to write and make this our day job. Um, I've, as you mentioned earlier, I've been in real estate for a number of years. That's my work. That's my livelihood. That's my passion now is um, my day job. So the only thing that would ever really hold us back from doing those sorts of things is just the ability to get together in a room and do it. And we're particularly bad at that sort of thing because we all have other priorities. And it's tough. Every band has its wrinkles, and we've got lots of wrinkles. And it's we kind of scatter and go our separate ways when we're not working together. We don't socialize a lot. We have this business that we run together. I mean, I'm horrible to be in a band with. I will say that right off the I would be horrible. I wouldn't want to be a band with myself. I argue about everything. If I want to get my way, I'll sulk about it. I feel like I'm always right about stuff, and yeah. I mean, I can play, I can groove, but yeah, I'd be horrible to be in a band with.
At least you're
But that's an
self-aware.
aside.
You do have that quality. You're
Yeah.
self-aware.
Oh, terrible. Absolutely terrible. I don't know how those guys put up with. They barely put up with me. But yeah. That would require more rehearsal than we would be able to commit to. But not out of the question because as it happens in the last year or so, we've decided that we want to rehearse more and get better. And we're always tinkering with this material. We've got songs that we've been playing for 25 years, but we're still making little changes to the ending and this middle section and doing that. And that to me is the sign of a good song, is one that has sort of a bit of an evolution to it and is not just, okay, it's recorded and this is the arrangement and we're done. We still stretch and try to work with the material and then incorporate new material if we can as well. We've been kind of touching on that a bit, which is a whole different conversation. But
So I'll just quickly touch on slow motion and then we'll move into other things like real estate. So slow motion you guys released in 2001. There's three singles, Absolutely Anytime, Holiday, and Slow Motion. The album goes gold. You left before this album. At what point did you know that it was time to leave the band?
it was an interesting time for the band. Uh, and like I said earlier, every band has its challenges, and we have had and have our challenges in terms of maybe some interpersonal relationships and musical differences. If I could bring out the biggest cliche around, at that point, we were, I think, about 11 or 12 years in, maybe about 11 years in. And if I could sort of set the tone, we had a label that was dragging their feet as far as what we were doing. That was EMI. It had been 3 years since the Silent Radar came out, roughly 3 years, and they weren't happy with what we were coming up with in terms of the demos we were sending them. And if a label isn't happy, they don't release the advance, and they don't give you a budget to record. So that was creating a lot of frustration. You start pointing fingers, blaming each other for certain shortcomings, this and that. And that coincided with the band getting into some home demos and personal recording. And I remember the label really encouraging that, which is fine. I've got nothing against experimentation. My favorite bands will have their records where it's just a complete left field, and you are a creative band. You want to do things, you want to take chances. I don't think that album has the songs. In all honesty, it's an album with songs that some of them are good, but I have to be honest. I've never even listened to that record. I've heard bits and pieces of it over the years. But it was dressed up in this sort of electronica that I think the label was really pushing. Certainly, the band had an interest in it. Um, but I remember sitting in a recording studio. We were recording a song called I Like It. And I wasn't even on the recording. We were working with a gentleman who had created this drum loop. And I was getting pressure from the label and the guys to kind of go with the flow, and this is what we want to get into now. And I was just this is not I'm not on this song, and this is not this doesn't sound like the Watchmen. I'm not inspired, and that coincided with me getting interested in some other things uh, professionally. That was the sort of beginning of my career in sales. So yeah, it was all kind of a mutual thing. We have different memories of kind of what went down when I sort of left the band, so to speak. I do remember when that happened. We had a conference call a few weeks later where we tried to hash it out, and I had had enough at that point. To me, that album is, for your listeners who enjoy good metaphors, that is our cut the crap. I don't know if you know the album by The Clash called Cut the Crap. Well, Google Cut the Crap, and you'll see that in the catalog of albums by The Clash, Cut the Crap is uh, in a certain category. Let me just say that, and that's all I'll say. Slow Motion is the Watchmen's Cut the Crap.
I'm familiar with their more popular albums, but I'll have to check out that reference. We have a fan question from Chris Anderson. Any chance the Watchmen albums will be put out on vinyl?
Slim chance, my friend.
So you're
We've
saying there's
tried.
a chance, a very
They're
slim chance.
yeah, it's very expensive pressing vinyl. And I know that I've looked into it before because I'm kind of the band's archivist. I'm sort of responsible for those reissues that have been on digital platforms, digging up our through our vaults and such. Silent Radar is it's like 60 minutes long. It would have to be a double vinyl, double album, and it would be a 50, $60 purchase in a store, and it would cost a lot to make it. So we just don't have a label that is interested in doing that in very pragmatic terms. That's really what it comes down to. I'd love to have our albums on vinyl. I'd love to listen to them on vinyl, but I just don't see it. We pressed some vinyl a few years ago on a live album we did called Live and in Stereo. And I think maybe, I can't remember how many we pressed. I think it's sold out now, but yeah, I totally get how people want vinyl now. I'm right in there, but I don't see it happening anytime soon.
So in 2014, Vanessa Azzoli released the book Uncovered, the Story of the Watchmen. And I have some kind words sent in from Vanessa. She says, writing the book changed the course of my career and my life. And Sammy was my rock through it all. I'm forever thankful for all his help in making it such a success. So that's from Vanessa.
So nice. Lovely. Yeah, I remember her, can't remember how that went down exactly. But Vanessa and I had some coffees and talked things through, and I was excited about it because I've read every music biography that ever was ever written. And I remember drawing her attention to the 33 and a third series of books. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but there's this wonderful little publisher that puts out the book. It's a little mini book that covers just one album. There's a Highway to Hell. There's a Fear of Music. There's a Fish albums, REM albums, whatever. And the book is one album. And I just was referencing that. And we had some coffees, and she wrote the book, and it was a fun thing to work on for a little while. So yeah, very cool.
So we have a few fan questions. Charles Neil Smedella. The question is, whatever happened to all the posters hanging on the walls inside the McLaren furnace room?
Oh, I know what he's talking. On the cover of McLaren, we've got all these great posters because Danny and I both worked in record stores at the time. He was at A&A and I was at Music City, I think, or and of course they've got these posters. So we had if you look closely on that album cover, you could see all these posters. I don't know. I'm not sure. The garbage.
We have two questions that are basically asking the same thing. So from Christina Liam Dixon, she asks, they keep dropping hints of new music. And with Joey Serlin owning a studio, what is the actual chance of some new stuff? And then the other question from Darcy Timko, I'm interested in if they have any new music in the pipes. It's been a long time. So same question,
Yeah.
essentially.
It's a fair question, and I can appreciate that. I mean, I've joked before that we're kind of scraping the barrels here as far as the patience of our fans not coming out with new stuff. As it happens, this year in particular, we've really tried to buckle down a little bit and collect some ideas that some of us have. A few members have come to the table with fully completed songs. We had in this, I guess, past month or so, we've actually had some writing sessions as well, which is something new for us. In an effort to try to come up with some new material. I think right now there's about 4 or 5 ideas that are pretty strong that are kicking around, uh, but really we don't know. We kind of don't know what to do with it. Uh, if I'm being honest, there's no infrastructure of a record label anymore. People put music up on the internet and it's gone, it's here today, gone later today. That's a bit of a challenge. The journey needs to be the destination, I think. And if we're getting something out of working together and creating that in itself, should be enough. But certainly we'd love people to hear this stuff. And I think we're still trying to figure out how that would work exactly. So we could always just throw something up on Spotify or whatever, but we're still kind of hashing some of that out right now. But yeah, there's definitely some good ideas that are kicking around right now. And what's funny is she mentioned Joey's studio. Joey is a part owner of a company called Vapor Music, which does film and television commercials, movies, etc. He's a successful guy. We've caught ourselves on a few occasions. We're in this room hammering out songs, and we're recording them on our iPhones to remember the ideas. And one of us said recently, we're surrounded by millions of dollars of recording gear, and we're recording this on an iPhone. I mean, it's just some things never change. Um, anyway, I thought that was kind of funny, but I really hope that within the next 6 to 12 months or so, we have something that we could at very least put on a website or get out there because there are some really good songs or ideas right now that should and could see the light of day. We just have to sort of figure out some details.
You guys have three upcoming shows, September 25th in Niagara, Ontario, October 11th, Kitchener, Ontario, November 13th, Winnipeg, Manitoba. For our fans that are listening that are in those three markets, if they went and purchased a ticket right now to see you guys in concert, what can they expect from the Watchmen?
It would be me doing about 10 minutes of stand-up comedy. I'm working on my stand-up comedy right now, Joel, and I'm
Amazing.
workshopping some material. So, no, it's look, we are, if nothing else, we're very, very consistent live, but we don't aim to just be consistent. We try to sort of get to a place of transcendence when we work. Our live show at this point, we can definitely deliver. Uh, and then once in a while, what we feel, we'll kind of kill it, and everything will be sort of aligned. The improvisational sections are taking shape. The flow between songs is working. The set list is working. There's energy from the crowd. That's the ultimate goal. I would say this year in particular, and it's not always the case. We've been playing some really good shows that we've been happy with. We're playing well. We're clear-headed. Uh, and so I think that that's likely what's going to happen, those three shows, or at least that's what we're going to strive for. And then we always try to sort of mix it up a little bit in terms of set list, maybe adding a few things here and there. Hopefully, maybe we'll put a new song in there too as well. We're talking about that.
I saw you guys did an Aussie tribute at one of the shows not too long ago.
Look, there are a few musicians that make such a difference uh, as Ozzy. I mean, Joey and I were sort of headbangers, if you will, in the early 80s. And Ozzy was a true original. And we loved his music. I loved his whole persona. And we decided right before a show we played last summer with Big Rec at a festival out in Alberta, and we brought in a quiet moment, Danny broke into "Mama, I'm Coming Home," uh, and you could feel the energy just rising from the audience because Ozzy had just passed away a few days before, and I saw the clip on YouTube. It sounds great, if I do say so myself, and yeah, he added a lot, and we've always paid tribute to bands and artists and people that we love over the years. Well, it'll be very sort of time sensitive depending on what happens. I remember we did the song "Political" by Spirit of the West a few years ago because John Mann had passed away around that time, and we're music lovers and music fans, so we'll pay homage when we have the opportunity to do so. So we had to do something for Ozzy.
Melissa Moss wants to know, will they ever play Atlantic Canada again?
Well, we've played Newfoundland over the years. Is that considered Atlantic Canada, or are they their own island?
I am no geography expert, but that's Melissa's question. I don't know if she wants a specific area, but
Well, as it happens, Joel, excuse me,
that's all good.
I am a geography expert.
Oh, there
I
you go.
am. I'm kidding, of course. We would love to, again, back to the whole pragmatic thing. It's got to make sense in terms of some numbers, in terms of everybody's schedule, and we would never turn down a good opportunity out there. I'd love to play out there, but it would have to make sense for all of us, for sure.
So we're getting near the end of the fan questions. This is from Toby Lane Daniels. Toby asks, well, starts by saying, first off, Sammy is as nice as he is talented. Please ask him what keeps him motivated to play after all these years. The music, the fans,
The money? No.
the money.
Um, you know what? I know Toby. She's an old friend, an old dear friend. You know, we have some incredible fans. This is a good segue into her question here is because we built things brick by brick way back when, we have this incredible community of fans and people who love the band. I have said this before, the Watchmen do not have casual fans. I'm proud to say that when people are into the band, they love the band and they see us multiple times. I mean, there's not hundreds of thousands of them, but the people who are interested are devoted. And to answer Toby's question, I think it's sorry, I'm just getting an email. I'm going to shut that down. I kind of feel like that's probably why is we have that really devoted fan base who are still coming out to see us play. Uh, like I said earlier, we all have day jobs and priorities outside the band, but when we can make it work and it makes sense on all levels, then we'll get out there and do it. So it's a very addictive thing. It's not always a satisfying thing. It can be frustrating at times when you're traveling and you're out there and maybe you're not playing as good as you could and whatnot. But what could be very addictive is when you have those transcendent moments where something very exciting happens on stage that you least expect. It's this intangible feeling where for me, I have sort of this afterglow 2 or 3 days after a really, really good show. Then it goes away. But that's for me, speaking for myself, that keeps me going for sure. And there's been a few of those this year, which I'm really happy to report.